Never miss an episode of the Final Furlong podcast. Subscribe now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here's your host, Emmet Kennedy.
Champions Day at Ascot. The curtain comes down on the flat season with 5 Group 1s, £4 million in prize money, and some of the most talented horses, jockeys and trainers in action going head-to-head for end-of-year supremacy. Proven stars like Ombudsman, Calandagan and Delacroix we're going to be duking it out in the Champion Stakes. We're going to have classic heroes again taking each other on. Hopefully no pacemaker madness this time around as Rosallion and the returning Field of Gold will duke it out in the QE2. Trawlerman, is he going to be crowned champion stayer again with an effortless victory, or is there a Ballydoyle contender that can mix things up? And a fascinating running of the Fillies and Mares Stakes. Plus, the sprinters will also be in action. Oh, dearie me. To break down Champions Day at Ascot, I'm delighted to say that we are joined by leading analyst for RaceiQ, their lead analyst, and a former jockey, Paige Fuller. Paige, you're very welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on again.
It's great to have you on. Is your jumps hat on? Because a lot of people watching this are going to be wanting you back for the Paige Fuller RaceiQ jump special. So is your jumps hat firmly in place?
Can I say yes?
Yeah.
Even if I don't mean it.
Yeah. You can spoof that answer. No problem. Oh, yes, of course. I can't wait. We're so excited. Paige, obviously, as a national jockey, very much is excited about the new jump season, but we're still in flat mode. Breeders' Cup to come your way as well. Okay, the Champion Stakes, Paige, that's the race we're going to kick off with. It's the feature race of the day. It's the most anticipated race, maybe of the season. You've got last year's unlucky runner-up, although if Anmat hadn't got a clear run, he would have been unlucky as well, to be fair. But given the fact that he was sent off such a strong favourite last year, it's hard to say anything other than he was unlucky. Calandagan, who's now a dual Group 1 winner. We have the champion, the Irish champion, Delacroix, winner of the Eclipse, winner of the Irish Champion Stakes. We thought we'd never see him again, but he's going to roll the dice one more time. And of course, Ombudsman, a dual Group 1 winner this season, hugely impressive at Royal Ascot, and a winner of the Jumpment International the last time we saw him. What is the RaceiQ data telling us, and what is your opinion telling us about the Champion Stakes?
Yeah, this is a fascinating race, isn't it? I think the beauty of this race is none of the horses have kind of followed any of the set routes to this point. Like, they've been defeated, they've gone to races that we wouldn't expect. Some of them having their first run of the season. I mean, it's a really interesting competition, especially between Ombudsman and Delacroix. And I know that we probably aren't going to agree on this, but between those two, I am firmly in Ombudsman's camp. I think he's going to take it. I think he's going to be the one to take it first to 3. Well, 2 out of 3. I don't think he's necessarily going to win. I think it's all going to be very tactical. If it doesn't end, obviously they've put the pacemaker in for Ombudsman to try and get that strong pace in the race. If it doesn't quite happen like that, I think Calandagan just wins, because we know that he's got a serious turn of foot, but we also know that you can't quicken off a really strong pace, because at Epsom, when he was beaten by Jan Bruegel, he just got outstayed at the line. So there's so many different threads going on. But first of all, I'll focus on Ombudsman, and I'll focus on the fact that I think everyone's being really harsh on him for his defeats. I think he's sort of, he's got beaten at Sandown both times. Sometimes horses just don't like tracks, and he's a really strong, powerful galloper. And I think ultimately he just couldn't quicken at Sandown both times. I think he was really impressive at Ascot. I think he did benefit from a pace collapse. But it's funny, sometimes you end up in situations where the pace collapses around you and you just gallop to the line as you would do normally. But Ombudsman didn't do that. He actually quickened in the final furlong. And that, a lot of people might sort of think is a weird thing to point out, but actually not many horses quicken into the final furlong. So when I was looking back at all the horses that are on Ascot over the last 3 seasons, only 30 horses in our database from 4,232 horses or whatever it is have posted a quicker final furlong than their penultimate furlong. And when you break that down to the winners as well, only 12 winners from 359 winners that we have in our database have posted a quicker final furlong than the penultimate furlong. And so I'm not saying he wasn't flattered by that race because it all fell into his lap. But my main point is the fact that he certainly wasn't just going through the motions at the end of the race. He was winning it quite comfortably in the end. And that's what I was most impressed about at Ascot. And I think, again, at York, he wasn't just flattered by a pace collapse because, ultimately, yes, Beer Castle went way too fast in front. But when you look at our past sectionals, which for all of your viewers are available on the Racing TV website, in the Gentleman International, like the trailers went actually quite steady in behind, so that the race was a race of two halves. And what impressed me at York was where I thought Delacroix would always have a bigger turn of foot than him. He actually had that turn of foot over Delacroix, so he hit a higher top speed. I think he hit a top speed of 41.13 miles per hour with 3 furlongs to run, whereas Delacroix could only hit a top speed of 40.77 miles an hour. And that's what won Ombudsman the race. So I just think it's his race to just prove that he's the champion.
Well, it's a bold call from John Gosden to go, we're not going to go for the Irish Champions Stakes. And the reason we're not going to go is because we don't want to be messing with those Coolmore pacemakers. Carl Jung's theory of projection: you project onto others that which you are yourself. You do it in the Sussex Stakes, that's okay. It blows up in your face, but it's okay because you did it. And you do it in the Jumpman International, and again, that's okay because you did it. But it's not okay for Aidan O'Brien. How dare Aidan O'Brien use pacemakers? Well, you're going to have a more effective Coolmore pacemaker in Mount Kilimanjaro, who seems better suited to that role than poor old Continuous, who just either blows the start and then goes off too quickly and spoils the King George. And well, probably he didn't help things in the Prince of Wales. Definitely didn't help things in the Prince of Wales Stakes either. But it's a bold move for him to give him that break in the Juddmonte. It didn't work for Baaid. There's other horses it hasn't worked for either. And sometimes when you have a horse who's just in good form, you're better off to keep rolling with them. And they probably felt this wasn't going to happen. They probably felt they'll never have to face Delacroix ever again, and they can lord it over him, go, see, we're the better horse. Well, now you are going to have to take him on. And there's a thing that lingers in the back of my mind. This is not a race Aidan O'Brien has a good record in. He's only won it once, and that was with Magical in 2019. But Delacroix is different in that he wasn't a horse being prepared for the Arc, and he's not a horse being prepared for the Breeders' Cup. This is the race they will have aimed him at. And I think they've probably been quietly aiming him at it ever since the Irish Champion Stakes, and wouldn't run him unless they were very, very bullish that they were going to get a really big performance from him. So big test for Christophe. Again, he's passed it obviously at the Irish Champion. Big test for Aidan. Delacroix loses nothing if he gets beaten in this race. He's a dual Group 1 winner who's by Dubawi out of Teppan, an Ascot winner, so he's going to be very valuable. And Ombudsman doesn't really lose anything either. It's just we get a nice bonus if these two horses getting to face each other again. The problem for both of them is they've got Calandagan in there. And I think some people, Paige, are going to say, well, he's a year older and he's better over 12 furlongs. First of all, do you agree with that? And secondly, the more I look at this race, the more I'm starting to think Calandagan's actually going to go off favourite for this.
Yeah, he's a horse that I found very painful to follow over the last couple of seasons, as I'm sure most of your viewers, and it's not often that
Adam Mills has spent fortunes on therapy bills because of Calandagan, but still loves him.
Yeah, and the problem is he's won 2 Group 1s now. And the form is solid enough. But the problem is every time he gets really pitched in against proper horses, he does come a bit unstuck. Like as I say, he's got a serious turn of foot. I know that he does stay a mile 4, but I still think if he's galloped too hard over any distance, I think he'll struggle to inject that pace like he can do when it's just a nice even tempo. And because we don't know yet whether Delacroix or Ombudsman are going to be proper horses, it's so difficult to know whether Calandagan's just way better than them, which, on his previous form, he has every right to be on Saturday. But as you say, if he got backed into favourite, you've got to back him now, haven't you? Because he probably will get backed into favourite. He's got the most solid form. He's older. He loves Ascot, even if he doesn't always win, but you're not going to want to back him on the day, are you? And I think a lot of people, as you say, have probably lost a lot of money on him over the years.
Oh, I'm sure some people will have a concern about Calandagan dropping back to 10 furlongs given the fact he was beaten in this race by Anmat. And you could just say, well, Ombudsman beat Anmat, but Calandagan couldn't. Doesn't that mean that Ombudsman should be the superior horse and should go and win the race? But is there any RaceiQ data that tells us that the drop back to 10 furlongs either will or won't be an inconvenience for Calandagan?
And I think the main thing with Calandagan is that it's not a real end-to-end frantic early pace, because we know he's got a massive turn of foot, regardless of whether it's sort of mile 2 or mile 4. I think he could get outstayed over a mile 2 as much as he could do over a mile 4 if the race is run not how he'd like. Like when he won the King Edward VII Stakes last season at Ascot in July. Again, going back to that 359 winners that we've seen at Ascot over the last few years in our database, his final 2 furlong time of 22.9 seconds is the 12th quickest final 2 furlong time that we have in our database from those 359 horses. So he is well able to quicken. And I know that was over a mile 4, but again, it goes back to that. He's got a really sharp turn of foot regardless. He just needs the race to set up for him. And if we've got a Godolphin pacemaker and a Coolmore pacemaker, I think that is my biggest concern. Okay. But then hopefully, he's just, again, he's got that Group 1 form. He could just be the better horse. But I think we'll definitely find a lot out about Calandagan on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree with you. And look, the exciting thing about Calandagan is as long as he stays sound, we should be able to enjoy him for years. Rebels Romance is still strutting his stuff and winning Grade 1s at the age of 7. So that's exciting that he's going to be back. But I do think he's going to be very well backed and he might very well end up going off favourite. Is there anybody else that we should be looking at? I want to get your thoughts on the draw as well. I know you've got some data for us about that. But is there any other horse? There's one that you mentioned that I'm almost shy to admit I wasn't really considering. And he's currently trading at 16 to 1.
Yeah, I think I was looking back and I was looking at the economics, actually. And, okay, it's pretty tough to go up against battle-hardened horses at this time of year. But his form last season was exceptional up until soft ground in this race last year. He went off nearly favourite. He's a bleeder, so, coming back fresh is probably no bad thing. Quite often bleeders appreciate a break, they freshen up. Haggis knows how to get him fit. I think, as I think you pointed out, he has won off both breaks last season quite decisively as well. He'll appreciate better ground. I just think at 16 to 1, he is being completely overlooked. If the race fell apart, at least we know that he's a horse that really stays a mile 2 and will probably appreciate just the race falling into his lap. And yeah, I just think he's overlooked because of the fact that the first 3 of the betting is so exciting.
12 to 1, 7 to 1, 10 to 1, 9 to 1, 12 to 1, 10 to 1, 40 to 1. Now, there are a whole load of 7 to 4, 11 to 8, 13 to 8, even money, 5 to 6, 3 to 1 favourite shots in there as well. But since this race has been run at Ascot, there have been some big priced winners. The difference with this year's renewal is you're not getting that, oh no, we have to switch to the National Hunt course because the ground is terrible type of champion stakes. You're going to get a, touch wood, proper good ground, possibly good to firm ground, champion stakes. But he is a massive price. He beat Auguste Rodin fair and square. And Auguste Rodin was a really, really top class horse. So, interesting. Very interesting. And he was second favourite for this race a year ago. So it would be intriguing. And really the reason he was second favourite is because Calandagan always goes off favourite, which is one of the reasons why I think he'll go off favourite for this race. Yeah, it would be quite fascinating if the horse who was sent off 2 to 1 for this race a year ago wins it at 16 to 1, but I suspect he'll be backed on the day. He's interesting. Anybody else that we should be highlighting?
No, I mean, look, we've got an awful lot of horses that have shown an awful lot of promise, so you wouldn't be surprised if, a horse like Pride of Arras or something like that turned
Fox
up.
Legacy.
Or Fox Legacy or something like that. But again, I just think it's just going to be so tactical. And actually, you mentioned that I've got the draw information as well, but I think that could play a big part as well because, as we know with Ascot, you run very quickly and you've got to sort yourself out quite quickly over mile 2 because you've got the bend turning in. And yeah, I just think, we know that getting drawn low is a benefit on the round course. And one of the metrics that we brought out this summer was this draw advantage metric, which looks at all of the historical beaten distances of horses over a certain trip on the ground with the number of runners. And where we kind of anecdotally know certain things about certain courses, this is trying to put a sort of a tangible number onto the bias effectively of the draws. And I think this illustrates the point quite clearly that basically, if you're drawn lower, you could have nearly a length advantage in some stalls compared to those on the outside. And especially where we know it's going to be so tactful, it just sort of highlights the fact that actually, those on the outside are going to have to really go quite hard to get to get into their position on that first bend. And yeah, I think it just highlights the point that this is just going to be a brilliant race to watch, because there's just so many moving parts going on that we within sort of half a mile we might be completely ripping up our form.
So essentially, just to break this down for most people listen to the podcast, although we're obviously very grateful for everybody who watches on YouTube. And if you haven't smashed the like button on this video already, please do so. And remember to hit the shall we try that again, Paige? Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode of the Final Furlong podcast and more great insight from the great Paige Fuller with the National Hunt season not far away. But to break this down, essentially, there is an advantage to being drawn low between 1 and 6. And then it appears to be, well, it doesn't appear, the data is telling you, there is an obvious disadvantage being drawn 7 or higher, which some of these horses may very well be capable of overcoming. But when the margin for error is so fine at Group 1 level, and when there's very little between Ombudsman, Delacroix, and Calandagan, who's a new shooter for those two, and then you've got a whole load of very interesting horses like Fox Legacy, Economics, Almarac. There's a number of horses you could look at and say, you're capable of stepping up. You really do want to be drawn, this data is telling you, between 1 and 6.
A bit like exactly what happened in the Prince of Wales Stakes, wasn't it? All the front, a couple of bit of the pace was drawn out wide because they needed to get to the front for the first bend. They've just gone way too fast. That run into that first bend over mile 2 at Ascot, it just completely shakes up a race there. And yeah, if some of the pacemakers are drawn in the wrong place, or say Calandagan just gets stuck wide the whole way round or something, and I think this does a great way of condensing why all the little details about a mile 2 at Ascot, what we already know. I think this sort of, as I say, puts that number on why, and those small margins, like you say, for the end of the race, why it might have happened.
Okay, I want to be drawn in the first 6, ideally. I think Peter Michael is expecting me to be all like, Delacroix is going to crush him. It's going to be easy day for Delacroix. I really fear Calandagan. I'm pretty confident that Delacroix will beat Ombudsman. I know that you've just tried to persuade me otherwise, which has also made me a little bit nervous, by the way. But this is a deep race. This is a fascinating race. I can't wait for this. 4:05, Ascot, live on ITV, live on Sky, live on Racing TV. No excuses to miss it. No excuses whatsoever. It's going to be a cracker. Who is Paige Fuller's pick?
I'm just going to say Ombudsman. I have faith. I think what he's shown so far has been exciting enough. When he's won, he's been decisive, and I will forgive him for not liking Sandown. Like, I can't forgive Delacroix for obviously just really appreciating a stiff galloping track like Leicester or Sandown. And I just, I think, and I just don't trust Calandagan, so.
So Paige's process of elimination, which is kind of harsh there in the way she's talking with some of those horses, is to just go Ombudsman because he's solid. And John Gosling has won this twice in the last 10 years. Whereas I'm sure there's a lot of people who'll be saying, no, Delacroix is going to confirm it. That's the fascinating subplot. Who finishes in front of the other one? Is it going to be Delacroix? Is it going to be Ombudsman? Finally. And this is it. This is the third time they match. So one of them's got to come out on top. This is it. But Calandagan's the very interesting one. Economics. if they run Almerac. I'm not sure he will run on good ground, but if they do run him, and Balding's not that far behind in the Trainers' Championship in the straight match between himself and Aidan O'Brien. He's an interesting subplot. In fact, the prize money is Aidan O'Brien 7.4 million, Andrew Balding 6.7 million. Congratulations, Aidan O'Brien, on another Trainers' Championship. I mean, come on. Hey, Andrew Balding could have an epic day, by the way. He could have an epic day. We'll talk about one of his leading contenders in the QE2 next. But it's Ombudsman for Paige Fuller from RaceiQ, and you can find out more at the RaceiQ website. Just Google RaceiQ, DuckDuckGo it, whichever way you want, and you should be following RaceiQ on X as well, at race_IQ. Before we get to the QE2, this podcast is brought to you by 1xBet. You can sign up now to 1xBet in Ireland at 1xBet.ie. Bet €10, get €30 in free bets. Very useful for Champions Day, and indeed for the Breeders' Cup coming your way as well. 1xBet are the official betting partner of the Curragh, also official betting partner of Paris Saint-Germain. There's a massive competition going on currently for trainers who can win the 1xBet series. Whoever accumulates the most points between now and the end of the season at the Curragh, their stable will be entered into a draw. One of the stable staff will get an all-expenses-paid trip to a Paris Saint-Germain game. It's a fantastic initiative. It's a great thing to be doing. They're also official betting partner of Barcelona. You can sign up now at 1xBet.ie. Bet 10, get €30 in free bets. Gamble responsibly. Terms and conditions apply as they always do. 18 plus, begambleaware.org. 1xBet.ie, the new name in betting in Ireland. Second feature race of the day, and another intriguing one, is the Queen Elizabeth II Stakes. We've got 2 classic winners. Hopefully there won't be any pacemaker shenanigans this time around, Paige Fuller, in the form of Kirat. But Field of Gold, winner of the Irish 2000 Guineas, against last year's winner of the Irish 2000 Guineas in Rosallion, who, man, oh man, maybe this is his day. 6-4 Field of Gold, 7-2 Rosallion. A really interesting runner is Fallen Angel, who takes on the boys. The last time she did, she was well beaten in the Lockinge, but that was her first run of the season, possibly on ground that wasn't ideal, and she's on a roll. And the speed figure boys were losing their minds about her performance at Newmarket the other day. So she's an interesting runner. I want to hear what Paige has to say about her. The line in winter could represent Aidan O'Brien. Never So Brave seems massively overpriced, in my opinion, at 12-1. And then you've got the horse who beat Rosallion in the Queen Anne, and we know loves this track, in Docklands at 14-1 amongst a cast of fascinating supporting horses. Apparently Carl Spackler burning up the gallops in Newmarket as well. What is your initial thoughts on the QE2?
My initial thoughts is, if any of your listeners get slightly bored by data, they should definitely switch off now.
Don't do that. Hit the like button, subscribe, never miss an episode, and get yourself a cup of tea and a nice biscuit. Get one of those Biscoff biscuits. Kick back, because Paige is going to blow your socks off. Hit us with the data, Paige.
Yeah, or I should say, actually, maybe this is where I make it sound interesting.
There you
Hopefully
go.
the latter.
Paige is going to engage in some ASMR for us now as she talks us through the data of this race. Take it away, Paige.
This is honestly me getting into my geekiest. I'm just gonna go out there and say, we spoke pre-Sussex Stakes about Field of Gold. I just can't have him. Like, personally, I just don't think.
Why?
I don't know. I think part of it is actually not the data. I think it's just the fact that I don't think he was as unlucky at Newmarket as everyone was making him out to be. I think if the race had been run differently, then there are arguments that yes, he could have won one of the. I don't think he was guaranteed best horse in the race. That's just my honest opinion. I think he won okay renewal.
I talked to a good friend of the show, Ross Millar, about this last week, and we're both in agreement. I would like your opinion. Did the dip just catch him out?
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
I would like to formally apologise to Kieran Schumacher for my comments about that being one of the worst rides. I'd also like to apologise to Colin Keane for my comments about his ride on Cosmic Ear at Goodwood. Turns out Colin Keane did nothing wrong. That horse is an absolute hound. He made a sound afterwards. He made a sound after the race at Newmarket the other day, Paige. Do you know what it was? Woof! Woof, woof, woof. Cosmic Ear is a hound. Geld that horse. You might have some fun with him next year. I don't think Kieran Schumacher did anything wrong, with the benefit of hindsight. I think the dip caught him out. And poor old Ruling Court was just a superior horse as well, which is a real shame, on the day at least. And then Ruling Court couldn't replicate that with the preparation he was given for Royal Ascot and then we never got to see him after the eclipse. I don't doubt the Field of Gold is very talented, but when you look at the overall data, which you obviously love, well, he was no match for Camilo Pizarro and Rashibar in the Prix Jean Luc Lagardère. He's no match for Ruling Court in the 2000 Guineas. And did he pick up an injury at Goodwood? Did he? Maybe he did. But he's no match for Rosallion or even Henri Matisse that day. So why is he 6-4?
Yeah, I think everyone's still like holding on to that hope that he's going to be as magical as he was in the St James's Palace, and he was magical. Like he looked impressive, he quickened up impressively, but
what did
again,
he beat?
Exactly. I think that's my problem. And Cosmic Ear, he definitely doesn't stay. He's just tripless. As you say, he's a dog. I can't.
I was kinder. I said hound. You just like straight and nice dog.
But yeah, I think the main thing to Field of Gold is he hasn't been up against a field full of the strength and depth of this race, full of proven Group 1 horses. And I think, I still love Rosallion. I think he's another one that could easily get caught out tactically. I'm pleased to see him back at a mile. I think the Queen Anne this year was run very steadily, and I think he's got one sharp turn of foot. When he won the St James's Palace last year, he won it with a sharp turn of foot in the penultimate furlong. When you're up against horses on the straight mile where they're just rolling, you're going very steadily. There wasn't really any opportunity to use his turn of foot. He got caught flat-footed because everything else was quickening. Docklands got first run, and he just couldn't. He didn't have that turn of foot off that steadier pace. Interestingly as well, I think at Goodwood he showed that he's got a serious, lots and lots of speed about him. But again, he got caught out in the same situation. When I was looking back on the data from Goodwood, his final furlong is the fastest final furlong we have in our database of all horses at Goodwood. And his final 2 furlongs is the second fastest that we had. And he's one of only 2 horses that has dipped below 22 seconds.
Rosallion.
Yeah, in the Sussex Stakes. He flew home. He has such a serious turn of foot over a mile.
What is Richard Hand's therapy bill, do you reckon? Oh my God, that man must be really pulling his hair out. He's doing everything right. He's getting the horse there and the horse keeps getting beaten.
Yeah. But and maybe he's my cliff horse. I don't know. Maybe he is my cliff horse, but I can 7 furlongs at York. Again, he got stuck out wide. It just all went wrong for him. Never So Brave just got all of the right run of the race and stuff. But again, I think the way that this race is going to pan out will suit Rosallion better than it did the Queen Anne, better than it did, the Lockinge. But the Lockinge, again, it was another really steadily run race. Fallen Angel is not going to let this race be a steadily run race. And I completely agree. She is the one. I would be having a reverse forecast personally on Fallen Angel than Rosallion, because I just I just love her. I think she's gorgeous, and I think she's going to set it up beautifully for Rosallion. Whether he's going to be able to quicken past her, I don't know. That's my only question, but I think those 2 will be 1-2. And your speed people, I mean, her race at Newmarket was so impressive. Granted, everyone was like, oh yeah, Storm, whatever it was, she had a massive tailwind. It's not the first time there's ever been a tailwind at Newmarket. It does happen quite often. And I was looking back at our database again, and I think we've got win times on the Rolling Mile since the start of 2013, so about 12 years worth of data. And her win time was more than a second faster than any other win time we have in our records over that distance. That is a seriously significant. And also, if you're in front, you're not getting the full benefit of that wind. That win from behind. Okay, once you broke away, yes, you haven't got the win in front of you, but that was a very, very impressive win at Newmarket in the Sun Chariot.
Yes, Paige Fuller. Yes, Fallen Angel. 5-time Group 1 winner, 3 Group 1s this season. The second she wins that race at Newmarket, and I completely agree with you about the tailwind as well, Carl Burke says this race. Immediately nominates it. We're going to go again. She'll wear the cheek pieces again. She's completely unexposed in them. I think the ground was just too fast for her at Royal Ascot when she was beaten, and maybe she wasn't suited by the way that race panned out either.
And it was on the round course.
It was on the round course, and it's possible she didn't have the easiest of setups. I interviewed Carl Burke before the Lockinge. That's when he told us about Phoenician Sun before she'd even run. And he was excited to see her run, but he wasn't at all confident, and he made a point of saying, no, she's going to need this, and it's to put her on track for Royal Ascot. I think she was probably just a little bit further behind than they thought. Made no mistake since then. The sectional times boys they're losing their minds over that performance at Newmarket. So if that Fallen Angel turns up in this race, then she's a huge player. And I think 8-1's a very big price. And Rosallion's the obvious one for the forecast. Except for one horse I'm very keen to ask you about, because Adam Mills and I have been talking for the last week or so about why is this horse 12-1? It doesn't make any sense. Is he actually going to run? Are they going to send him to the Breeders' Cup? Well, Oisin Murphy's jocked up to ride. Last time out, Group 1 winner, Never So Brave, who is 2 from 2 at Ascot this season. And he's a Group 1 winner last time out.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea. I think, I definitely think that he got the run of the race at York in the City of York Stakes. But he was galloping really strongly to the light. Like, he looked like he needed another furlong at the end. Like, he didn't win it because 7 furlongs was his trip. He won it because he was the best horse in the race, really. And, you go back to the weight carrying performance at Royal Ascot was so impressive. Like, to win that handicap carrying 100, with a handicap rating of 105, carrying basically top weight, his win time still scored basically a 10 out of 10 on our time index, because it was just such a good win time. And to do that with all that weight on your back, to then go and follow up, as you say, over a mile where he's still got a 8.3 time index after that. They're good times he's posting. Granted, both days the ground was a bit quicker, so the meeting average was sort of about 8 each time. That is a very, very strong time performance. And I put him in the same camp as he's a more reliable Field of Gold. I think he's a Group 1 horse in the making. I think he's got the talent for Group 1, but I'm not sure he's got the talent for Group 1 this deep. Because even you look at Docklands, he's even longer in the odds.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I think he's definitely going to win, but I think if he turned up, he won the Queen Anne. Okay, yes, as I said, I think it's because the race panned out the right way for him. Docklands is a horse that he's ranked either first or second in top speed in sort of, I think it's 7 of the 12 races we've got for him. So he's all about speed. So he's probably one where if Fallen Angel didn't set the pace that we think she's going to, and it turned into a bit of a sprint, he might catch Rosallion out again. But his win time, again, when he was runner-up at Ascot in April, that was a very, very good win time again from the winner. Gutted we haven't seen the winner since. And it's such a deep renewal that I just worry that Never So Brave is maybe just going to not quite be good enough to win this race. I think in a normal QE2, he might have gone off way shorter, but I just think this is a very, very exciting race. I just don't know whether he's quite got that quality to win on Saturday.
It's not that he can't do it, it's just that this is such a deep contest that maybe it's going to be a season too early for him. I get the concerns, I do. You're getting 12-1 in compensation, and you've got Oisin Murphy, and you've got Andrew Balding on your side. So I think there's a lot there that gives you enough of an upside. I personally prefer Fallen Angel. Unfortunately, so does the betting market, which is a bit frustrating, but you're getting 8-1 about Fallen Angel, 12-1 about Never So Brave. I think they're both very interesting. Just very briefly on Docklands, given his course record, he has to be taken seriously, at least from an exotic bets point of view.
I personally, I will be backing Docklands over Never So Brave, just because I love the horse on the track. I just think he's, for whatever reason, tailor-made to the race. I don't think it suited him at Goodwood, where he's got a turn of foot, but where everything else was quickening downhill, they weren't coming back into his lap. I think he's a confidence horse. I think he likes passing horses, quickening up past horses. He's a very similar style of horse to Rosallion. In my head, I can't work out whether he just got lucky because he happened to just Rosallion just got caught flat-footed for a moment when he was able to quicken. But again, it goes back to the fact that he just knows the track and he runs the track so well. I think it's why he won the Queen Anne rather than being the best horse in the race. But he could just do that again, just because horses for courses, you know, it's at 14-1.
Yeah.
Like, I prefer that value personally.
And you've got Tom Marquand assisting you as well, which is going to be a massive help. They're keeping him in training next season. They're going to try and go for another Royal Ascot win, that'd be pretty cool. He hasn't really done enough to justify himself being a stallion yet, but if he wins this, or he wins a Queen Anne again, then suddenly... Sardinian Warriors, the horse that Paige was referring to, by the way, that we haven't seen since before the Ascot run. And, man, his form with Saucy, his form with this horse, his record on this track, he would have been very interesting. We're both in agreement that Fallen Angel is overpriced and that she can run a big race. I'm going to take 2, and I'm willing to have Field of Gold put egg all over my face. But I'll side with Fallen Angel. I think Never So Brave is fascinating, and Rosallion's probably a lock to be second, but he might go and win this. So that'll be the trifecta I play. Your 1, 2, 3.
My 1, 2, 3, Fallen Angel, Rosallion, and Docklands.
Okay. I don't disagree with you on Docklands. I just think Never So Brave has the better upside, but it wouldn't be in the least bit of a surprise if the horse who comes out on top is this one. Are we talking about the sprinters next? Thankfully, we're not. We're going to talk about the stayers instead. Don't worry, the sprinters are coming. But something completely different, the stayers, first of all. Before that, this episode of the Final Furlong podcast is brought to you by 1xBet. You can sign up now and take full advantage of their loss refund bet. Get a free bet back on losing bets. 18 plus, terms and conditions apply. You can sign up now at 1xbet.ie. It's for the Irish listeners and the Irish viewers. Big ambitions, a huge company. 1xBet Ireland. Sign up now. Your loss refund bet. Get a free bet back on losing wagers. Find out more at 1xbet.ie. Or you can bet 10 and get €30 in free bets. Handy for this weekend. 1xbet.ie. Terms and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly. You know all of this. The stayers. I suppose the question should be, Paige Fuller, how far does Trawlerman win by? Because he's the superior stayer. He was brilliant in the Gold Cup. He was really, really good at York. That form has been boosted at Doncaster by Sweet William. Is there any reason to think that he's vulnerable here?
No.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Final Furlong. I mean, the only one that's of interest against him is Stay True. But is there anything in your data that suggests to you that Stay True is a credible threat now to him? And he is in receipt of weight, obviously.
Yeah, I think, he did get very close to Scandinavia in the St. Leger. So you can't dismiss him. I haven't got anything in the data specifically. He's really too unexposed. It's so difficult to know from these stayers until they turn up. But I just, as a 3-year-old against a horse like Trawlerman, who just goes a metronomic gallop and just grinds them into the ground, I think a 3-year-old will fold very quickly under the pressure of his gallop, is probably my gut feeling. But he's also only beaten a length and a half in the St. Leger, so by a horse that we know is going to be a very good horse and probably taking on Trawlerman in next year's Gold Cup.
Possibly. Stay True is entered in the horses and training sale. I imagine this is going to be a Point Lonsdale situation where they take him out and he's just in there as almost an administrative thing. Now, if he gets lapped, maybe they decide, thanks very much, but we've got plenty of stayers for next season. You're all right out of stock. But I would like to see this horse. I would love to see what Aidan O'Brien can do with this horse as a 4-year-old. I think he's going to be a very, very interesting stayer for next season, and maybe even has potential over 12 furlongs for Aidan. He's only had 4 starts. He's very unexposed. There's part of me is really tempted to go with him. That if you want to have a bet in this race, just take the unexposed, exciting, potentially new kid on the block to go and outperform their odds in a potentially messy tactical race. This is a race that Trawlerman was 3rd in last year. Sweet William beat him, but they were no match for Kyprios. But we've been trying to figure out who's going to be the new Kyprios Page, and it turns out it's the horse that he was doing battle with. It's the horse that beat Kyprios and that Kyprios would beat. It's Trawlerman. To keep it simple, he's going to take an awful lot of beating, and there's no logical reason as to why he gets beaten. So maybe you just go with Stay True because there's potential and upside, and he did get close to an all-age Group 1 winner, Group 1 winning stayer in Scandinavia the last day, but keep it simple, stupid. Trawlerman's going to take all the beating.
Yeah, I just can't, especially like where we don't, you're not going to have any place markets really or anything. It's just a very difficult. It's a really difficult betting race, and to be honest, it's just nice when you get horses like we needed Qipco also for the purpose that he did for the sport, didn't we? In the sense that he turned up, he ran his race, and he was the horse that everyone could get attached to. And actually, even if it's just for that sake, I can't wait to see Trawlerman just go and do exactly what he did at Ascot, because it was just amazing to watch, to be honest. And we need that in the sport.
Yeah, it's really disappointing that this is the field we end up with. But I might actually end up tipping Stay True because he's the unexposed, exciting one. Okay, speaking of, that was short and sweet. Speaking of unexposed, exciting ones, the sprint division. Are you excited? Are you excited for the next round of the sprint wheel of madness? Who's the number going to land on this time? Whose turn is it? Lazat is your favourite, 7-2. Big Mojo, 5-1. Montasib, who had a nice comeback and obviously was a Group 1 winner last year and ran a big race in this race a year ago. He's only beaten 2.25 lengths, 6-1. Not as big a race though as Kinda Blue, who's the reigning champion and is an Ascot horse. And he ran a blinder behind Big Mojo the other day, 13-2. Flora of Bermuda, who also ran a massive race in this last year and last time out, 9-1. To be fair to Big Mojo, he was second in the July Cup. He's now won the Haydock Sprint. In between that, he ran a decent enough race when favoured at Goodwood behind JM Jungle. But I guess if Lazat comes back to his Royal Ascot form, they won't see which way he's gone. But do you trust him to do that?
So the answer is I don't know. But my problem is it's always going back to that Ascot form, isn't it? It's like I don't always, like Flora of Bermuda doesn't love winning. So you kind of go, surely at some point the wheel's going to fall onto her. So I keep going, actually I think this could be her day. And then you just go, but actually she got smashed by Lazat at Ascot. So, and her form is strong. I think Big Mojo finds this, I think he'll find this track too stiff. Montasib might appreciate going back up to 6 furlongs, but again, I think he's going to fight. I think he finds he doesn't love the track. I keep spinning myself back round to Lazat, to be honest. I think the nice thing about Ascot is it's a really stiff, straight course, and horses that have proven form on the course do come back and just repeat that form. And I think, I haven't really been to Deauville in person, but I don't think it's as stiff as Ascot, and Haydock definitely isn't as stiff it isn't as stiff as Ascot. And yeah, I think he's got form. He loves the track. He's a Group 1 winner from Royal Ascot. I think Flora Bermuda is a nice little each way price still. She might come in, but everything else is just, you go, oh, no, there's a July Cup winner. Newmarket's not similar to Ascot. Oh wait, he got absolutely stuffed at Haydock. What I mean? Yeah, it's just, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
It's a mess. It's a complete mess of a division. There's a couple of horses at massive prices I'll just give a mention to. I don't think Spy Chief stays 7 furlongs. I know they keep trying it. I think he's a 6 furlong horse, and I'm pretty certain that run in the July Cup is proof of that. He was only beaten 2.25 lengths that day. 6 furlongs will suit him better at Ascot, but it's still a big... I don't think it's a shocker that he places, and he's 66-1, and right now William Buick is jocked up to ride him. So I find Spy Chief somewhat interesting for this race, and the form of the jerseys worked out very well. Marvel Man looks a proper horse after winning at Doncaster. Good old Seagulls 11 came out and won at Goodwood. Then ran reasonably well in the City of York Stakes as well. That's not bad form. And I'm pretty certain the 2 horses who finished in front of him the other day, A, I don't think he likes 7 furlongs. I think he's a 6 furlong horse. And B, I'm pretty certain that Remuse, and for all that Voltura was beaten at odds on the next day, I think they're 2 nice horses. So I don't mind him, and he's a massive price. Witness Stand, Holly Doyle is going to Wolverhampton on Saturday. and what that's about. So Witness Stand gets Colin Keane for the first time. Very interesting. Massively disappointing at Paris Longchamp the other day and wasn't fancied. Was sent off 30-1. But really good at Goodwood. That form with Lake Forest worked out very well and got within 2.25 lengths of More Thunder, who would be very interesting in this race had they aimed him at this instead. 10 Bob Tony's one I could give a chance to for Ed Walker, Kieran Schumacher on board. We've seen horses dropping and trip do very, very well in this race over the years. And he got within 2/4 of a length of Marinona Charlie in a race that possibly wasn't run to suit. And he beat Kinross, a former winner of this race, at the start of the season. So I could see him running well. But do you see the problem? I'm trying to give chances to horses that should not have a logical chance of winning this race. That's how bad this division is. It's awful. And I kind of feel like I'm going to end up going back with Inisherin again, which almost feels like, oh, you're doing this cliff horse thing again that you've managed to get yourself out of, but now you're going back to it. I can give an excuse to him. I think he might have been drawn on the wrong side, and him, Inisherin and Lazat are almost level with the furlong to go in the Sprint Cup at Haydock. And 3.5 lengths is not that bad over 10 furlongs, but over 6 furlongs, it's not great. I still feel like there's a big race in him, and he obviously loves Ascot. So I could give Inisherin a chance, and at a big price at 16-1, if he gets the rub of the green, maybe today is the day. But he's not going to have Ryan Moore. I don't know, Paige. I think this is a race we can just run around like headless chickens talking about over and over again. So very simply, who's your pick?
Lazat. And I know it's like it's sort of probably just the easy option right now, but he had enough of these horses in behind him at Ascot that either him or Each Way Flora of Bermuda, because she is probably one of the more consistent horses in this race. Consistently not winning, but she doesn't get absolutely lapped, apart from obviously in the July Cup. But, beyond the July Cup, she's always knocking on the door. And you just never know, it might open one day.
It might, and she's going to have the assistance of Oisin Murphy, which is a massive help to her. I know Oisin was kicking himself a couple of times last year. Very, very rare that you'd ever complain about Oisin Murphy ride, but he himself was holding his hands up going, that could have been better. So she's got unfinished business. This might be really simple. Kind of Blue is bred to be an Ascot horse. He's related to two winners of this race are in his family. He's a winner of this race. And he's coming into this on the back of his best run of the season. And James Francho's horses are running much better now than they were earlier in the season. Kind of Blue at 13-2, but
can we get a price on Watnam winning the race?
1x bet. Can you price up Watnan to win this race, please? What are the odds? I feel we need a palate cleanser. I really do. The palate cleanser can be the Fillies and Mares, the Qipco British Champions Fillies and Mares Stakes. Good luck to the sprinters. Let's go for the Fillies, shall we? So Estrange is the 3-1 favourite. She's got the Mini Hawk form. I put it to you that we might take the long way. He's got better Mini Hawk form in a classic and got closer to her. And she got pretty close to Kalpana over 10 furlongs as well. And yet she's 12-1. Kalpana's 3-1. Maybe we might take the long way shaped better at Paris Longchamp. In fact, she did. She was a fast finishing. She was doing all her best work towards the end of that race, and she was sent off favourite for the Prix de l'Opera when she got within half a length of Barnavara towards the end. And there's another horse that you and I spoke very briefly about this beforehand that absolutely is a cliff horse for me. But I'd already backed her, and then you said, well, isn't there a horse who's massively overpriced for this race? And that horse is?
Bedtime Story.
Take it away, Paige. Why?
To be honest, we spoke about it so briefly, I haven't actually been able to revisit her Ascot form. But all I remember is just being totally blown away by her win last year at Royal Ascot. And you can just make excuses for her ever since. And I think the main thing that I would take away from her form is, her last 3 starts will be in France, which is really difficult to translate English and French form together. I think you kind of suit one or the other. You tend to suit one or the other, just in the styles of races. And also, I just think she clearly doesn't like soft ground. I think, she looks like she's performed well enough over these longer distances that she's not just a sprint to middle distance like she was as a 2-year-old. She has progressed. She will get further. She hasn't won over further, but She's run on heavy, she's run on good soft, she's running Group 1s. At the end of the day, she's getting the fillies allowance. I know this is a Group 1, but it's not, compared to the other Group 1s we're talking about today, this is a very, very weak Group 1. And at the price she is, she's completely overlooked.
It's not great form, that Chesham. But Brian was rated 101, and she battered him by 10 lengths. And more importantly, she battered Lazy Griff by 18. And maybe that race came a bit too soon for him, but that's a classic place horse, who some think would have won the St. Leger. This season, she's been second in the French Oaks, the Prix de Diane. She's gotten within 3 1/4 lengths of Aventure and the French Oaks winner again in the Arc Trials. And I don't really think they thought she was going to stay, because that's how she's ridden. She's ridden like a horse that they're trying to get the trip, as opposed to, we know she's going to stay at mile 6. They sent her off favourite for it, but she got a typical what Ryan Moore does. Your chance is gone. There's going to be another Group 1 to come. Don't blow your chance of winning that race. Sumion played those tactics brilliantly. And Christoph Sumion is almost certainly going to ride her. I mean, he's hardly going to be on board ballet slippers or island hopping. So her most impressive performance came at this track, and she has the form in the book to be able to go and run a massive race. It's there for you. 16-1. I think it's her, or We Might Take the Long Way, are the two that are very obvious. There's Quisasana, there's Kalpana, there's Estrange. Let's just deal with Kalpana first of all, shall we? She was sent off 16-1 for the Arc. That kind of tells me all I need to know, really. So I can mark up that performance. I can say Colin King gets stuck out wide. There's not a whole lot he can do. She was very impressive in this race a year ago when she beat Wingspan. Is she actually good enough to be tempted in to back her at 3-1?
So I can't remember. Did you say you were going to back Calandagan for the Champion Stakes?
No, I said I think he's the most likely winner and that he'll go off favourite.
Yeah. Because, we can't forget that she was only beaten a length in the King George.
That's fair.
It's
very fair.
My problem with Kalpana is I don't know quite whether I trust her, because she's always letting us down, but sometimes you get the wool pulled over your eyes a bit, don't you? And actually she hasn't been beaten, take the Arc out of the equation, she hasn't been beaten more than 2 lengths this season. And she's been running in Group 1s against the boys as well. Not all of them, obviously, but...
Well, her first run of the season, she gets within a length and a half of Anmat in Los Angeles.
She's a tough one. Look, I don't, it's so tough with the fillies, because sometimes they just wear their hearts on their sleeves, and whether she looks like she's that sort of horse, I don't know. She was impressive in this race last year. I don't think the ground was as soft as, because it was on the jumps track, even though they were giving it soft, we know that it wasn't really soft ground. So I don't think she was just better last year in this race because it was on soft ground, because it's probably good soft. But I did like your shout of We Might Take the Long Way. She's got the form with Mini Hawk, which then, if you loosely, I know you can't really loosely tie it in with the Arc form, but, it's there. And even when she was beaten in the Pretty Polly, it was funny looking back on it when you mentioned her. Like, she was the fastest finisher in the Pretty Polly by quite a long way. She was stuck out the back, and she was at least 0.2 seconds quicker through the final furlongs in the Pretty Polly than Well, and she was the only horse to clock a sub 12-second furlong in the final furlong as well. So she was like motoring home in the Pretty Polly. Granted, it's probably not a hard luck story. They didn't really go steady. It was her own fault for getting stuck out the back there, but that's strong form. And I think she's probably the safer bet, even though I think Kalpana is the likely winner.
Yeah.
Because you can still get an each way price on We Might Take the Long Way.
What's funny when you talk about something, like, your instinct is to just go, I want to take on Kalpana because. And then you go back and look at that form, and instantly you go back to Kempton. That's pretty disappointing. But immediately after that race, Andrew Baldwin was saying, no, I think she needed that and she'll be better. Even if she did, the horse who beat her confirmed that form in the Arc and finishes 4th. How many of these horses would finish 4th in an Arc? And she's not that, she's what, half a length behind him? Maybe a length. So her run's not even that bad either. He's 6 lengths back, she's 7 lengths back. Well, now she doesn't have to worry about him. She's back against her own sex. She was wildly impressive in this race a year ago. It's just different conditions, and she's had a harder race in the Arc in between. But if you're telling me you're backing her at 3-1, I'm not going to talk you out of it at all. And it might very well be that by the time the declarations are through, she's the one I end up tipping on the final furlong. Right now, I think the 2 horses that are of interest are Bedtime Story, who definitely has excuses for her defeats this season. Sometimes you're giving excuses to horses that don't deserve it. I think she does deserve them. And we might take the Long Way, who was sent off favourite for a Group 1 last time out and did all of her best work towards the end of the race. So for the purposes of this podcast right now, I'll go, we might take the Long Way, and Bedtime Story is my 2. And I'm probably doing some kind of elaborate tri-cast on those 2 and Kalpana. Your selections?
I'm probably going to go for We Might Take the Long Way and Kalpana, just because otherwise it would be boring for your viewers. I must say, Emma, I don't think I've ever been on a podcast with you where we've agreed on so many horses.
Yeah, and it started off with us disagreeing.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we pretty much agreed on everything except for Delacroix and Ombudsman. So, sounds like your viewers need to keep listening to. What have we got? 2 more races?
2 more races to go. Yeah, to see, is there going to be an epic fight between Paige and I before the end of the show? Because we were talking very briefly beforehand. Well, actually, we talked for quite a while before we started recording, but we didn't do any notes in the lead up to this. Because why would we do that? It's not like we have to share production notes or anything. But we were gearing up for a fight in the Champion Stakes, which then we didn't really fight. Just like you made your point, I made my point. We kind of disagree on it, but good luck to you with Ombudsman. I'm not that bullish about taking him on anymore, especially with the way Paige made such a compelling case about why he's got major chances for that race. But then everything else, yeah, we are in sync with. So either we're going to look like geniuses or absolute buffoons. And I hope it's geniuses. I hope. For the purposes of this podcast, and also for everybody who's watching and listening as well. We didn't really talk about Estrange, and just very briefly on her, it's great that she's recovered from that setback that ruled her out of the Arc, that had nothing to do at all with the fact that she was drawn in the car park. It's brilliant that she's okay to take her engagement up here. I'm not as convinced by Estrange as some are, and I don't think she's going to relish this ground either, for all that she's won on it.
No, and I think just the way she goes about things. I know lots of people say they don't like her head up in the air because it looks like she's not trying. I'm not. I don't think the head up in the air thing worries me from the not trying. It's the I think just the way she runs and that style of sort of high knee action and stuff. Is it going to suit around Ascot? We're running straight downhill, then uphill, and she looks like a horse that kind of skips along the ground and appreciates a sort of galloping track like Haydock and York. I just, in my head, granted, okay, she's won at Goodwood as well, but that was on soft, and I don't know, I think good ground on a round course like Ascot, where they're going to be winding it up the hill. They might fall into her lap, but I just can't. It wouldn't be a surprise, but I don't know. She's not my vote.
No, not for me either. Great to see David O'Mara with a good horse, and maybe she can do it, but I think she's making the betting mark. I think she's just giving us better odds than others. And if she goes and wins, okay, well done. But you haven't said anything that's changed my mind. In fact, you're agreeing with me to take her on, so I feel a little bit more bullish about that. Okay, one more race. It's a new one to talk about. Before we talk about that, sign up now to 1xBet. 1xBet Ireland. Bet 10. Get €30 in free bets. Perfect timing for Champions Day at Ascot. 1xBet.ie. Place your €10 wager. Get €30 to do whatever you want in bets on the 1xBet website. 1xBet.ie. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly. Visit begambleaware.org. Place 10, get €30 with 1xBet.ie. Sponsoring 2 races at the Curragh on Thursday, including one that Aidan O'Brien has won twice. He's got probably the horse that's going to go off favourite for that race. It's the Final Furlong podcast with 1xBet.ie maiden. And because of that, we're going to record the Champions Day preview a little bit earlier. So hopefully you're going to have Andy the Nap Newton, who came so close to a 14-1 winning nap. So close. What was he defeated by? Peter Michael. Peter Michael's big bet. So the boys for the second year in a row gave you the 1-2 in the Cesarewitch. Outrageous scenes. Peter Michael, Andy Newton, Georgia Cox to preview Champions Day. Hopefully you'll have that podcast Thursday afternoon. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the Final Furlong podcast so you don't miss out on the winners. The boys were in tremendous form. Hopefully we'll carry that forward. I think this is going to be a pretty short and sweet preview. First ever running of a 2-year-old race on Champions Day. It's the Qipco British Champions Day 2-year-old condition stakes. How far does Words of Truth win by Paige Fuller?
I think he wins by a length. I'm going to... No more than, no less. But he wins by a length.
Okay. Very specific. Distance betting on 1xBet. Available now. There's all kinds of specials there. Knock your socks off.
Yeah, I think to be honest, it's quite difficult for me to really dive into the details without decks being out, just because of the way our system currently works. But I think he's just been really impressive. And I think one thing that I really like about him is, again, going back to Ascot being a stiff, straight track. He's not flashy. He's not speedy. He just gallops his rivals into the ground. You take him compared to Brussels, he's never on the track clocked a sub 11 second furlong. He's never reached speeds quicker than 41 miles an hour. But he's still winning over 6 furlongs just because he gallops and he runs. And I just think that's tailor-made for Ascot. And obviously he's already won on the track anyway. But, you know, a horse like Brussels, the fact that he's second favourite, where we know that he's just not really good enough, I think that sort of says a lot about the race. You know, ultimately, I think it was a good run in behind Beckford's Folly last weekend, but I think that's because Brussels is a 5 furlong horse. I think he's clocked a sub 11 second furlong on like most of his starts. You know, he's a weak finisher over 6 furlongs. I think the fact that last weekend he was, I mean, look, he might not even go again, but, you know, I think the fact that last weekend it was a really strongly run race, he could use that speed and his stamina from slightly further to finish as close as he could to Beckford's Folly. But I think that's because that's his trip. I think he's a 5 furlong sprinter. And as I say, the fact that he's a 4-1 second favourite, I think just says a lot about the competition.
Yeah, when you're seeing a horse like him as the 4-1 second fav and almost certainly Aidan O'Brien's number 1, then instinctively you just want to go and find something to beat him. The problem is you've got a really strong favourite for Godolphin, for Charlie and for William. I agree with you. I think he's going to take the world of beating. His only defeat came at the hands of Humidity, title role, who Georgia highlighted on the Monday podcast as a very serious horse to follow for next season. He's by too darn hot out of a lemon drop kid mare. He's only won once since, and that was on the all-weather under Rosallion, and he was really impressive that day. Secret Santa's been disappointing, but we haven't seen him for a while. Sirius A placed on the all-weather the other night and placed in a Group 3 at Kempton as well. Crest of Fire keeps bumping into good horses. McMurray, the most recent one, to beat him twice, if I remember correctly. Cape Orator is a winner in Longchamp the other day and was third to Puerto Rico in the Champagne Stakes. Morris Dancer gave Zavateri a fright at Goodwood and then won the listed Stonehenge Stakes. Words of Truth. And they gelded him on the back of that run. Wah, wah, wah. Because he's 3 from 3 since. But the good news is, since they gelded him, he's been flawless. Well-backed favourite, wins at Ascot. Well-backed favourite, carries a penalty, wins a novice, and then beats Into the Sky. And we're all fans of Into the Sky. We think that's a horse that's a serious player for next season. Even money, don't complicate your mind. I will put one horse to you, Paige Fuller, as being potentially overpriced, but I don't know if I trust him. Mission Central, who made a fool of me, Paige, at the Doncaster St. Ledger meeting when I highlighted him as my best bet of the entire... Oh, God. But he didn't get to the lead, and he was dropping in trip, and that might not have suited him. Now, he's got an attitude problem, but he was very impressive in a Group 3 over this trip at the Curragh the time before that. He was backed as though defeat was out of the question. The only horse to give him any kind of a challenge was the Publican Sun he was majorly disappointing in the middle park, but that was his second career run, and they threw him into a Group 1 on the back of only one start, and they sent him off a single-figure price and well back too. So clearly that's a horse that they think a bit of. There's not a whole lot else there that you can say about the form, other than he battered Chicago Pope at the Curragh in one of the most impressive maiden wins you'll see, and Chicago Pope came out and won this week. So at 16-1, I'd take a chance that Mission Central over this trip would be better suited if they can get him to the lead, which I would imagine Christoph would do. None of the rest interests me.
Yeah, and I think that will be quite telling, won't it, when the decks come out who Christoph's on.
Yeah.
We'll get a pretty good guide.
Don't write Brussels stuff. Don't do it. He follows me on X, so I presume he's a big, big fan of the show. Don't do it, Christoph. Don't do it to yourself.
Yeah, no way. He barely stays 6 furlongs, let alone 6 furlongs at Ascot. Don't touch him.
Yeah. Paige Fuller has told you, Christoph, don't do. Even if Aidan's saying, you ride Brussels. No, you're riding Mission Central. You got some stuff to make up for at Doncaster. You get it right this time, son. What a legend Christoph Simeon is. What a joy he is to watch. My goodness, what a stunning talent. Okay. Best bet of Champions Day for Paige Fuller.
Fallen Angel. She's got to be, surely, especially at the price she is now. How is she still so, you can still get her each way. This is what's so bonkers.
I don't get it, Paige. I'd really like the Paige Fuller patent. So 3 from Paige. So Fallen Angel is number 1. 8-1. About a 5-time Group 1 winner who's won her last 3 consecutive starts in Group 1 company. Okay. Thank you. What would be your second pick?
I'm going to go that's a very good question. I'm going to go for Ombudsman. I'm going to keep the faith. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it.
Peter Michael is somewhere now just loving this. Absolutely loving it. And your third?
Well, problem is, I really fancy. I don't want to pick all the favourites. Can't pick Trawlerman because that's just boring.
Could if you wanted, but it would be boring.
I'm actually going to go back to the QE2 and I am going to go Docklands each way.
Oh, 2 in the same race.
Yeah, is that all right?
You don't have to ask my permission for anything, Paige. You can do whatever you want. You're Paige Fuller. You do what you want, and it tends to be great, including the RaceiQ website, which we should have had fired up beforehand, but we'll give you a very brief look at it. There you go. RaceiQ website. There is loads of data, including, sectional data, speed metrics, stride data, in-race provision, 0 to 20, quickest to 0 to 20, power time index, power sectionals and FSP, finishing speed, lengths gain jumping for you jumps fans, and of course the jump index as well. All of that is available on the Racing TV website. All you have to do is just go to the results section of Racing TV. There is all of the RaceiQ data in all its glory, carefully put together by Paige Fuller, who then does some brilliant social media content as well. So at race_IQ on X. It's on Instagram as well.
Don't worry, there's way more intelligent people actually putting the data together.
No, it's all Paige.
Just caveating the fact that I'm not bright enough to be doing the complex modelling that our brilliant data scientists and engineers do behind the scenes.
No, everything's done by Paige. Paige does all of it. She runs the company herself. She's the CEO. She does everything. She just has a few minions who run around giving her coffee and probably some energy supplements to somehow keep her going. Because I don't know where you get the energy to do all of this. It's mad. It's brilliant. The entire team are great. There's an incredibly dedicated team of people behind the scenes they're the unsung heroes who don't get to come on podcasts and be the face of the company, and they're the ones who are giving you all of the data, and then Paige Fuller has the eloquence and the brilliance to be able to explain it to us in a really interesting way. And you know what the fun thing about Paige is? Never comes across as condescending, never patronizing, never dumbs it down, just gives you her honest opinion about the facts and the data that she has. And that's one of the reasons why we love talking to Paige so much. It's a real pleasure, Paige. Are you going to be at Champions Day?
I am. I'll be sat in the broadcast trucks, texting away, trying to get this sort of analysis onto onto our TV. So I can't hog it all myself. So
I'm gonna break down the fourth wall. I'm gonna give you a piece of information here. Right, this is just between us now. Whenever Ed gives you a brilliant statistic, Paige. That's Paige. You can sometimes, if you really look very and Ed's a brilliant broadcaster, so he makes things quite effortless. But sometimes, if you really zone in, you'll see his eyes darting, and that's Paige talking into his ear, saying, "Well, actually, here's the finishing speed, or here's why this is one of the greatest performances ever." I'd love to tell you that that's all his own work. No, it's Paige.
I just hope everyone enjoys what I'm feeding. Otherwise, poor Ed's got me feeding him information. Everyone's like, "God, will they just shut up?" But I have faith that actually Ed wouldn't be saying it if he didn't think it was interesting. So hopefully your viewers found it interesting too, because I actually genuinely, especially like when I was doing the research for this program, I was like, I forgot how interesting this season has been.
Yeah,
like, it's just been such a good season, and it's just so nice to have. Again, not to be too boring about the data, but it's really nice to have those numbers that kind of contextualize it and actually bring it to life and back up what we thought we saw.
it's nice to be able to have context. Visual impression is great. Did you enjoy it? Fantastic. Do you think Ombudsman is the best? Brilliant. Well, here's the data as to why. I really enjoy it. And past performance is no indicator of future performance. Isn't that what the pension plan companies say, the investment schemes? Past performance is not a guarantee of future indicators of blah, 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 blah. Just because I like to be able to explain why a horse did something or how a race was run in a certain way. And you explain that better than almost anyone. So we love talking to you on the show. Is your next appearance the jumps?
I need to go into hibernation for a couple of months.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way, I'm afraid.
I'm happy to stay behind the scenes maybe until Cheltenham Chaos.
Oh my God. No, we got to get you on to explain Constitution Hill. We have to have you on. Can the new line bridge the gap between champion novice hurdler and champion hurdler? Does he have the tactical speed to win a grade 1 over 2 miles? See, I'm getting into it straight away. Is Constitution Hill going to come roaring back?
Did the optician do his magic?
Has Specsavers, has the laser eye surgery, has it worked the trick for him? Can he see clearer now? And is he going to smash his rival? There's been a rumor that he's going novice chasing. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yes, do that.
No.
Best thing to do with an overconfident horse.
Now, if you were going to go chasing with him, you should have done it a couple of years ago. I can understand doing it with Faugheen at the age of 10 because he still wants to race, but he doesn't have the speed to be able to win over 2 miles, and he's not going to stay 3 miles in the stayers. So put him over fences. That made sense. Don't do it with a horse who's going to be 9 next year. Don't. No. Reclaim that champion hurdle crown.
Well, at least school him over like a little, well, I don't know, get a big chase fence. Best way to get a horse back off the fence. Scare them before they scare you. That's what I got told. It was a lovely old horse actually called Monbeg Fiercey. You probably don't remember it. He was the one that I had my Cheltenham April meeting winner on. And
all counts.
All the lads used to basically tell me how terrified they were watching me ride him because I just used to hang on for dear life. And one hurdle on the way around he'd step at, and they just said, "Please just send him." He's gonna do it, so just send him. And to be fair, it worked. When I sent him, he was like, "Oh no, I can't do that," and then he put down, and then
off he went.
Off he went.
And you won. If you ever wondered what Paige Fuller's motto for life is, now you know. Scare them before they scare you. Paige Fuller, everybody, from RaceiQ. Follow RaceiQ on X at race_IQ. Check out the RaceiQ website, and of course, all of the incredible RaceiQ features on the Racing TV website. Champions Day preview podcast for you on Thursday. Hopefully you'll have it out Thursday afternoon. Best of luck to everybody competing at the Curragh. We're looking forward to sponsoring 2 races there. And we've got more content coming your way very, very soon. So if you haven't liked this episode, smash a like button now. It's much appreciated. It's a real help to us with the algorithm. And hit the subscribe button. We've got big stable tour. Probably... I better not say too much about that, actually. But we have stable tours coming your way very, very soon. For flat and jumps. Because there's one big meeting to come in America. But lots of National Hunt content coming your way very, very soon as well. From Paige Fuller and me, Emmet Kennedy, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again very, very soon. Tomorrow, in fact, on the Final Furlong podcast. Look after yourself and each other. God bless.
Thanks for spending some time with us on the Final Furlong podcast. We're independent media, so if you like what we do, hit like, share, and subscribe. It's free, it's quick, and it genuinely helps. And if you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more where that came from. Don't miss out. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major platforms, and join us on the gravy train. The Final Furlong podcast, independent, unfiltered, and powered by you.